Welcome to 15241. Today Talk, subtitled Jim and Lanny on Stage. Our producer-director is Glenn Ward. Our coordinating producer is Linda Dudzinski. And our associate producer, Allison Hess. And our guest today is Jerry Berteotti, who was a star at Upper St. Clair and now owns Pizzazz Pizza. But let me first of all start by telling you, Jerry, we're pleased that you joined us today. Thanks very much for doing that. And what were the pluses of growing up in Upper St. Clair?
Best way to put it, I think, there's a perception. We talked about it with coaches several times. The community, outside communities, think that we were called cake eaters a lot. It's the rich boys, and I never really felt that. The way I grew up was definitely lucky, blessed. I had so many great opportunities given to me by my father and my mother, but I watched how my dad worked, and I watched how hard he wanted to succeed and what he put into everything he did, and it motivated me. It did not make me feel like I had it made and I could coast because my father was going to take care of me. It made me really want to push to make him proud of me and make my mother proud of me and succeed like he had done. And really, a lot of the guys that I gravitated to and my friends, they all had nice lives, nice families, but we all kind of had that mindset, not entitled, but more just we had things to live up to and people to make proud of us.
I felt the same way when I moved here, from Uniontown. I thought, what's that going to be like, going to Upper St. Clair? Because the people in Uniontown, they didn't say Upper St. Clair, they just said Upper.
Right.
And they thought that people in Upper St. Clair sat around and counted their money, So I remember I went to the first Boosters Club meeting and I thought, what's this going to be like? Well, my point is, we argued about how to raise a dollar and how to spend a dollar just like they did in Uniontown. So I think you're right on about your assessment of what it's like to really, live here. So anyhow, let's talk about one of my favorite topics. I might add before we get really started, Jerry is a Hall of Famer here at Upper St. Clair, and he got that honor because of being an outstanding football player, but probably more importantly, he was an outstanding baseball player that matriculated to the Los Angeles Dodgers. But let's talk about that favorite topic of mine, 1988. Jerry was our quarterback. And I've told this story 100 times, but we won the last game that qualified us to go to the playoffs, and we actually finished in fourth place, but we barely qualified. So we're riding home on the bus, and I'm in my usual spot in the front, and I get this tap on the shoulder, and it's Jerry, and he says to me, this is going to be great. He says, we got them right where we want them. And I'm thinking, Mount Lebanon had already beat us, and North Allegheny had already beat us, and Gateway was undefeated. North Hills had been the national champion in 1987, and they had guys back. And I'm thinking, he thinks we got them right where we want them. Well, anyhow, we played Gateway in the opening game of the playoffs and won 21-0. And now we're going to play Mount Lebanon in the second game. So rather than me telling all these, why don't you jump in with your memories of those playoff days in 1988?
That was a great time of my life. Great time of my life. It was, even with the Dodgers, I had more individual success in baseball, but that season, starting with you and the friends I had on that team and the way that season went, was the best time athletically I've ever had in my life. You're right. We kind of struggled all season. I did not start off well. It was my first year as a starter, I had backed up Chapani for 2 years prior to that and got some playing time doing different things. But I was kind of finding my way the first few games too. And it just felt like, to me, our team, myself, our confidence, our swagger, for lack of a better word, was just, we were getting momentum as the season went on. And when we got beat by those teams you were talking about, Mount Lebanon beat us, North Hills beat us, North Allegheny beat us. In every one of those games, I left knowing that we legit lost, but we could have won. They weren't better than us. They weren't the monsters that we had made them out to be. So when we got lucky, we beat Butler to qualify, and I kind of knew, I was glad we'd get another crack at them because I felt like we were going in the right direction. Our team was hot. Our defense was playing great, and we were running and throwing well. So I just didn't think. Proved out to be right. We were tough. We had a good postseason run.
We played Mount Lebanon in the semifinals over at Baldwin, and we won that game 14-0. In fact, we shut out the last 4 opponents of 1988, starting with the 10th game, Butler, and then Gateway, and then Mount Lebanon, and then we played Central Catholic. What do you remember about our trip to Three River Stadium to play Central Catholic?
Well, backing up, one of my favorite memory of the Mount Lebanon game, that was big. I wanted to beat them bad because they took care of us pretty good in the regular season. But we had third and goal, I think, early on, and you called an option play, and I went the wrong way. I went right, and the play was to the left. I was like, I lost a couple yards, and you called me over to the sideline. I think I remember you called timeout, and you called me over and laid into me pretty good, and you said, run the effing play again. Same thing, and we did, and we scored. And it was great. I remember that clearly, that conversation with you, and I was just hoping I didn't screw up and cost us. So the next play we scored, so that was lucky. But Central Catholic, I remember walking out of the tunnel and Sean Gilbert walking in from the AAA game before us. He was playing for Aliquippa, and he was just a massive, massive guy. Like, wow, I was like, I'm glad we're not playing him. That was just a sidebar of it, but it was exciting. Again, I felt good. I really was. I was confident. I felt like there just wasn't anybody who was going to get us at that time. Where the defense was playing so well, and everything was clicking right. So it was exciting. That was the biggest venue I'd ever been in, but it didn't feel too big. It was fun.
So your prediction that we had them right where we wanted them
came true.
It
was that was the year too. It was the first year of the state playoffs, and you and I had talked about it, and I'd read some things that you were talking. You had shared some titles, but it could have been our school's first title, your first outright title. So it was exciting to have that opportunity too, to be a chance to be the first group of guys that did that. So I really wasn't worried about the states. I think all of us were so focused on winning a WPIAL, it didn't bother us too bad that we didn't get to represent in the state playoffs. But that's been one of those, as I've gotten older each year, I keep waiting for it to ease up on me, but I get more mad every year that goes by. I wish I would have played in that game.
We should have won the first 2 state titles, because the team we beat in the WPIL finals, Pittsburgh Central Catholic, went on and won the state title because there were a few schools in the WPIL that elected not to go to the state playoffs in the first year. And then the second year, 89, we did go. And
fantastic season, yeah. Good.
So let's switch to baseball. Talk about your high school career. And I know you had some records or RBIs or whatever, so don't be modest. Fill us in here on why you're in the Upper St. Clair Hall of Fame.
I think I know I still hold the record for single season batting average and career batting average 30 years, so I'm proud of that. But baseball was I just felt that, I was too small, too slow for football. I don't know if I sell myself short, but the whole Hall of Fame, I feel like my biggest attribute, I've always kind of felt more of a grinder type of an athlete. I never felt like I was that guy that would shine so bright that everybody, but from every level I played, I always left everything I had out there. I worked hard, and I got the most out of what I had. So that part that's why I feel I had some success. With baseball, I just was, from the time I was a little kid, that's all I wanted. I don't know if obsessed is the right word, but I pushed, and I worked hard.
Lanny, I know he spent hours doing batting practice and in the cage and all that stuff. He eventually went on to Pitt, and can you talk about Pitt a little bit?
Yeah, it was.
How'd you decide to go to Pitt, by the way?
It was an opportunity. The program at that time, Mr. Lewis, Bobby Lewis, we grew up with his son Chip and I were teammates. He played for Coach also. Chip and I were friends. So Mr. Lewis, exactly what I was saying, he saw me playing from the time I was 7 years old. And I think I was the type of player that if you watched me every day, you could see the things I did well, the things I needed to improve on, and you knew I would work, I would provide, I'd produce, I should say. But so I think he offered me a scholarship before my senior season even started. And the program, he was towards the tail end of his career. The program was struggling. I knew I would have a chance to play right away. And that's really what I wanted. I wanted to keep the momentum going. I'd done okay at the high school level, and I thought going there, maybe someone would see me and I could keep pushing towards my ultimate goal, which was to play in the major leagues. Obviously, I never made it that far as a player, but Pitt was perfect for me. I liked the city atmosphere. I loved Mr. Lewis. He was he looked out for you more than just baseball. He was like I said, at that point, really, baseball was kind of secondary to him. He wanted to make sure that you liked the school, you were getting your education, you were pushing towards a good career afterwards. So he was good to me. I only got to play for him for 1 year, unfortunately. He retired after my freshman year. I think he had a heart attack, but still, it was the right choice for me.
You have a favorite game from your Pitt career?
Yeah, I do. We played Boston College, and Boston College baseball field was set up right next to their football stadium. So all the students would set up kegs of beer and party in the rafters of the football stadium that overlooked. And they gave you a pretty good. They were good at razzing you. And I was playing first base that day. I think we had a doubleheader, and I dropped a pop up behind first base, like in right field foul territory, and they were all over me. They tortured me. And then the next at bat after that, I hit 2 home runs that game. I remember just rounding third base, and I was just smiling at him. It was good. It felt good to throw it back at him a little bit.
How was it that you hooked up with the Dodgers and Tommy Lasorda?
Initially, it was my sister and my father knew him as friends, and contacted him and asked him to, put me in touch with somebody to give me a look, get my foot in the door. After my senior season at Pitt, when Mr. Lewis retired, I had a nice career at Pitt. My numbers were solid. I wasn't a superstar, but solid. And I thought I could play at the next level. And there was a local guy, his name's Mike Berger. He's been in baseball. You've probably crossed paths with him.
Yeah, Mike, I know his dad, Jack, his dad, Jack, was a very integral part of the Pirates organization. Yeah.
I love Mike. He probably, to me, when I think about that time, he was the first call I made when I got the sign. He was just really always on my side and pushed me and took time out of his day and his family to work with me. He was a catcher, and so we met every night for the whole off season before that initial spring training, and that's how it happened. I got lucky through Mike's recommendation and through Tommy's recommendation. I got to go to spring training. Spring training, they invite multiple catchers, lots of bodies.
This is the first spring after you graduated from Pitt.
Correct.
Or even right after you graduated from Pitt.
No, I actually, I think I finished. I worked through the fall with Mike, so. Yeah, I graduated. It took me 4.5 years. That fall, I worked all winter with Mike up at the Cost Center at Pitt, and then went to spring training in March with the Dodgers.
At Vero Beach?
At Vero Beach, yes.
That must have been something to walk in to Vero Beach, the history of the Dodgers.
It was incredible. It really was. And that was it. It was, they like I was saying, they invite a lot of catchers because there's so many pitchers in spring training. They'll bring extra catchers in just to catch bullpens and have bodies available to work them. So I wasn't necessarily signed at that point. I got to spring training. They said, we'll give you an opportunity to see what you do with it. And it worked out good. I think I caught, I'm paying the price now a little bit, but I just did everything. If they told me to run into a wall, I ran into a wall, basically. I knew Mike's advice to me was always first to come, last to leave. He said, you're a tweener. He said, you're going to be a marginal talent. So don't give them a choice. Trick them, make them keep you. And that's what I did.
So where'd you go to your first year in minor league baseball?
I played in Yakima, Washington. It's an A-ball team. I don't even think they're part of the Dodger organization anymore. I'm pretty sure it's gone. But I was thinking about that yesterday. I played my last game almost 25 years ago. That scared me a little bit. But yeah, I went to extended spring, where they continued to work with me, and then I went to Yakima. But it was tough. That year, they sent me as a free agent catcher. That was probably the greatest moment of that time was when they told me I made a team, because it was really up until the draft, this time of year, that I didn't know whether I was going to get placed. They just kept using me and working me, and I would catch and go to different teams, but they didn't offer me a contract until after the draft to see how many catchers they drafted, who was going to sign, if there was going to be a spot for me. So they came in the one day we were sitting in there in the locker room and told me that they were offering me a position at Yakima. So that's probably my favorite memory of baseball.
Were the conditions in minor league baseball dramatically different than the conditions in major college?
Yeah, I loved it though. I mean, it's everything you see in the movies and reading the books. You lived it. I'm sure it was the bus rides and the long days and not much money and living.
How much was it? Your first minor when you signed that contract?
I got $1,000 signing bonus. I think I spent it in 2 days. I did a little celebrating, and I can't remember what I bought. I bought myself something, but we went out and had some fun. But it was just the chance that I was there. I knew I'd get to keep playing. But I made $700 a month. We all lived with host families. I think my season there was about 4 of us. We got an apartment together, but it was exactly what I wanted to do. I felt real good with that. It was. You wake up every day and go play baseball and work to achieve your dream. So I didn't even feel like it was.
So how many years did you play minor league baseball?
Just that season.
Just that one year?
I played that season, and then they sent me to Australia. I got a chance. There was a coach, my catching coach for that team in Yakima was Australian. The Dodgers at that time were trying to expand their scouting and go to different countries. So Australia was more cricket and soccer, and so he said, why don't you come down there? Because at that Yakima team, the Dodgers that year had drafted Paul Konerko, he's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. The guy hit 400 career major league home runs, and he was an 18-year-old high school senior that signed for $1 million, and I was, 22, free agent out of college. So I didn't get to play very much. I caught the bullpen a lot, and Paul caught, and he'd catch 8-9 games. I'd catch 8-9 games. So it was a tough season. I didn't get many at bats. I never really felt in the groove. So when that chance to go to Australia came up, I jumped at it, and it was fantastic. It was a great 4 months.
And then how many years were you bullpen coach for the Dodgers?
I did that for 3 seasons. I went to Australia, and it was tough because I finally felt like it was clicking. I transitioning from the metal to the wood bat was tough for me. You have to be more, unless you're 6'6", 200, really crazy strength, you got to be sound, and you couldn't get away with as many glitches in your swing like you could with a metal bat. So I felt like both catching and hitting, I was getting there. And the kid that was doing the bullpen catcher's job for the big league team got offered a job with the Rockies, and the Dodgers, the front office said that they felt with where I was and my age and the way things were going and my talent level, they felt that they wanted me in the organization, but they saw me more as a coach or working for the big leagues in that aspect. So they cut me as a player and offered me the job. So it was kind of bittersweet. It felt good to be in baseball, but making it to the big leagues as a bullpen catcher is not the same as being their catcher. That was my goal. So I did that for 3 seasons for Lasorda.
Did you enjoy traveling with the big league club, even though you said it was bittersweet and you weren't a player, you were the bullpen catcher?
Yeah, I did. I kind of finally came to terms with it. I had no choice. It was the first season of doing it was the strike season. So if I would have continued playing, I probably would have been one of those replacement type guys, that they would have used until the strike settled. And a lot of people that I'd gotten to know and trust at that level said, if you have any interest in staying with baseball, you might want to consider not doing that because some of the guys would be labeled. So that was, I stuck with it, and I kind of thought, this will be a great way to learn and get into coaching and go that route was, but it just the same like I talked about the state championship. You know, I was only 23, 24 years old, so it was such a great opportunity. I was traveling the country with the Dodgers. I had so much fun, met great people, learned a lot about baseball that I can teach my sons now. But it was tough to be that young and be watching guys doing what you wanted to be doing and felt you could do. You know, I think I would have loved and appreciated that job a lot more, like at this stage in my life. When I look back on it, I'm like, I wish I would have just lightened up, because there's always something in me. I was just kind of pissed. I'm sorry. I was just mad that I didn't do better as a player, you know. But after a while doing it, I loved the lifestyle. I loved the traveling, you know. But I kind of knew after a year and a half, 2 years of doing it, that it wasn't for me. You know, I just wasn't a corporate guy. You know, I wasn't the direction I wanted to go with my life. I knew my dad was slowing down a little bit. I kind of thought it was time to come home. So,
yeah, I was going to ask you, was Pizzazz Pizza back home calling at you?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I'm so blessed and lucky with my dad. From the time I was little, I knew what I wanted to be. I knew who I was, what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to either play baseball or play football or work for my dad. And it was cool that I could get to do both of those things, you know. So I just didn't. Again, I guess it's just like any corporation. I just felt more me as a person. I would be better answering to my father than I would be answering to some guy out in L.A. So,
what was your dad's attitude about running the business to be successful?
Oh boy, he taught me a ton. He stressed it. Obviously, without boring you with details of the business itself, you know, what percentages to pay attention. He just always made sure he wanted my life to be balanced. You know, the restaurant business can grind you out a little bit at times, just like any job. But you got to be aware of where you are, what you're doing, who you're around, and I think he just emphasized that a lot on me, just to be good at it, work hard, give it your all, but also take time to have a nice family, enjoy some of the things you get because of it. Don't spend your whole life in the restaurant. So I wrestle with that still, because
I can imagine. I mean, the hours that you would have to put in to keep an eye on the business, and yet you have 2 children, right?
Right.
And what are their ages?
My son Lino just turned 7 on Father's Day, and little guy Angelo is going to be 3 Wednesday this week. So I got a late start. My wife and I have been together a long time. We tried for a long time and had no luck, and then God bless, you know, we got lucky and had 2 little boys. So
when your children come into the restaurant,
chaos.
I would imagine that'd be fun for them to come into the restaurant.
Oh yeah, they think it's great. It's like Kennywood for them. There's the video games, and I try to keep it. My dad never made me feel like, even though I said that's what I wanted to do, he never one time said, this is what you're doing, this is where you're going to be. It kind of was just the way he gave me all the opportunity in the world to do other things, and then it just wove its way back there, I guess. So I kind of try to do the same thing for them, just keep it fun, you know, not bring it home with me as best I can. I'm not great at that, but yeah, I'm proud of it. It's been
how many years has the family owned the business?
50 years. 50 years.
50 years.
Yeah.
This is the 50th year this year?
Yep, absolutely. My dad bought it as a pancake house, as a partner, and it's always been the bar. But he bought into it, and eventually bought out the other guys. So I'm proud of that. You know, that's hard we've tried expanding. We've done, but he did some different projects, ventures. I tried some things on my own, and for whatever reason, that location at Pizzazz has always been the one that worked for us. So.
Let me get back to your time with Coach Render. I know you have tremendous respect for him.
Absolutely.
What was it? What has he infused into your being and your life?
Wow. So lucky. We were rocky with each other a little bit when I played for him. He was tough. I gave him harassment all the time in the later years as we've become good friends. That I said, you're getting soft a little bit, Coach. You don't come down on these guys as bad as you came down on us. But he said that times are changing, and I agree with that. I see that with work. But he just made me I respected him so much for how much he wanted to win. And he always, you knew when you screwed up, you knew the things you did bad, but he also made me feel, the little things when he gave you a pat on the back or a good job meant that much more because of what you heard when you didn't do it well. And like I said earlier, it just pushed me. I wanted to prove to him that I could do it. I wanted to prove to him that I could be a good quarterback. And that's, I told the story when he helped me get into the Hall of Fame. I'll never forget, we were playing Shaler, and I'd been struggling all season. Not struggling, but just not playing as good as I could or should. And we had a play all week that I was butchering, and he was torturing me. I mean, he was on me good that I needed to get this play straight because it would work. And
That
first,
doesn't sound like me.
it doesn't sound like you at all, does it, Coach? He could say a lot without saying a word. He gave you a look, and you knew where his emotions and attitude were. But of course, the game starts, and immediately the defense does something that play was the play, and he sends it in, and I was like, the guy tells me the play, I'm like, oh my gosh, I better. And I threw a good pass. I threw a perfect pass to Cardello, and I looked over to the sideline, and he gave me a fist pump like that. Didn't say a word, didn't really even smile, but I get chills telling it now. That for me at that time, I knew, I was like, all right. I was like, I did it. Like the pressure was on, and I didn't crack. And that week I had a great game, and the rest of the season kind of just rolled along.
What was the play? Describe the play for me.
It wasn't anything flashy. It was I think it was called fan left. You just did a little roll out and settled in behind the left tackle, and the flanker did a long down and out like along the sideline, probably a 10, 15-yard pass. But you're throwing it against your body, and you're throwing it out to the sideline. So it's not an easy throw, but it's a throw that you got to make it 10 out of 10 times if you're any good. But for whatever reason the week in practice I didn't do it well, but I got it done that day. And it really, like I said, it didn't. I think we gained maybe. It wasn't a touchdown. It wasn't a huge play. It was just the fact that the heat was on, and I did it, and I kind of relaxed a little bit on myself and played better after that.
Quarterbacking a team, or quarterbacking a football team, or catching for a baseball team, more similar or dissimilar from running a restaurant?
I think they're similar. They're absolutely similar. I think it's total accountability on all three. You can't, as the quarterback, you can't blame it on coach, or if you can't blame it on whatever. If you're doing it right, you can take the pat on the back, but you got to take the heat when it doesn't work. And I feel that way. I felt that way in catching. I put it on me, and at the restaurant the same thing. If you get a bad meal, it's not on the kitchen. It's my job to make sure it doesn't happen again, or it happens least often as possible. I'm not perfect. Our place isn't perfect, but I take that as you're the face. You're the guy up front. You got to take the pat on the back and take the hard times too.
Minute and a half left. Want a final comment about this great guy, Jerry Berteotti?
Well, the world should have more Jerry Berteottis. It's very simple. He's an epitome of hard work and taking what ability is given him and developing it. And I sometimes think young people are missing that today. I don't think too many of them work as hard as what Jerry did, for instance. And of course some do. But, the stick-to-itiveness, the grind. And I thought your question about quarterbacking and catching, as well as being a manager of a restaurant, I thought that's all good. I used to catch a little bit, and I always thought there was a correlation between being the quarterback and being the catcher. The catcher's involved in every play, which is something that I enjoyed. I've seen guys stand in left field and catch one ball a month.
Right.
That's not true of the catcher. Well, Jerry, you're a great friend, a great restaurant owner, a great father, and Lanny and I certainly appreciate you coming in and sharing your stories with us.
Yes, indeed, Jerry. Thank you. We appreciate it a great deal. Thanks also again to Allison Hess and to our producer-director, Glenn Ward. Thank you for joining us on 15241 Today Talk.